This video can be troubling for many, and that's why we are starting with this disclaimer. A child being attacked by a dog, and you can see the mother literally try to save the child as we play this CCTV footage. Police say this was a pet dog. This incident happened in a residential area of Delhi's northeast. The police have said as the mother-child duo were returning from the temple, the neighbor opened their door and the two dogs attacked the child. CCTV shows one following the other. Let's listen in to what the residents are saying in this particular area.
और ये थर्ड अटेम्प्ट था इनका, जो उस छोटे से बेबी को उन्होंने इतना बुरी तरह से अटैक करा है कि अगर एक मिनट कोई और नहीं होता तो शायद उसकी मतलब जान के ऊपर भी बन सकती थी। गली में से ही दो लोग जा रहे थे, स्कूटी पे थे, तो उन्होंने ही उसको बच्चे को अपनी गोद में लिया, देन उन्होंने ही उसको प्रोटेक्शन दिया।
हम तो यही चाहते हैं कि ऐसे कुत्ते नहीं होने चाहिए। देखिए अभी भी सुबह भी बोल रही थी वो कि अभी तो हमने कुछ नहीं करा, अब यहाँ पे बच्चे खेलेंगे तो हम अपने कुत्तों से और कटवाएंगे।
डर तो हमारे को भी है, उनके कुत्ते देखते हैं तो हमें भी लगेगा कि सामने रह रहे हैं, डर तो बना ही रहेगा।
Right, and the other story is from Bengaluru. In Bengaluru, a 4-year-old girl was attacked by a pit bull and is seriously injured. This happened inside the dog and the owner's house. As the father and daughter visited them, the father has refused to file a complaint. Let me go across to my colleague Neha at this point, who's reporting from Bengaluru. Neha, what are the details in this particular case?
Well, Sneha, we're picking up that a young 4-year-old girl, in fact, was mauled here by a pet dog. Now, we're picking up that this dog, in fact, attacked this little girl when her father had taken her to visit the owner's house. Now, we're understanding here that, in fact, the father, of course, his employer here, the owner of that particular company where this man was working at, even went on to tell the father of this little girl not to file a complaint with the police, citing that he would bear the medical expenses, and if at all he did go ahead to file a complaint with the police, then that he wouldn't bear the medical expenses. Remember the background of this family, this little girl coming from a rather economically weak background here. The father confessed to the cops that he wouldn't be in a position to bear the medical expenses, owing to which a complaint hasn't been filed. Now, at the end of the day, of course, Sneha, this raises questions about why it's important for, pet dog owners to, of course, train their dogs, whether it's behavioral therapy that the dogs need, or for that matter, whether it's just basic training over here. It is imperative that, these, of course, aren't stray dogs. We're looking at these dogs, which are, pet dogs, which are taken care of at home, groomed well. And at the end of the day, incidents like this, of course, really raising concern here. We'll really, of course, have to wait and see now that this case hasn't, of course, really gone forward, since the father of this victim has said that he wouldn't be filing a complaint, and the owner of, his employer, in fact, has promised to bear the medical expenses there. The condition of this girl we're picking up right now is that she is recovering, but she was seriously injured all of 4 years, and truly a very unfortunate incident. Well, we just hope that this incident acts as an alarm to all the other pet dog owners, and there is, of course, some effort that really goes in by the owners when they're adopting pets, or when, several of these people even pay lakhs many a time to buy these, breed dogs. Well, we just hope that there's a little bit more responsibility that comes forth with it when they are bringing a pet home.
Right. Neha, thank you very much for those details. Now, I'm being joined by a panel. I have got Sonali Chopra, who is a Delhi High Court advocate and animal rights activist. Thank you very much for joining us. And I am also right now being joined by Advocate Aditya Pratap. Let me just outrightly mention this very clearly. This discussion isn't about human versus dogs, because it's far more complex, but extremely important to understand, to know what one needs to do and not to do in circumstances such as this. In fact, many are also unaware about these rules as well. Let me just go over to my guest straight at this point. The introductory remarks from both of you. Why don't you both just take a minute to respond? First, Sonali, these visuals are extremely disturbing.
Absolutely, no doubt about it. I am a pet parent myself. In fact, I also have dogs. And to see instances like this on almost a daily basis is quite disturbing. It just shows that pet parents are somewhere losing sense of responsibility or maybe aren't even having that to begin with. And that is the only reason why these incidents are taking place. Someone needs to take responsibility, and it is the pet parents. And I say that as a pet parent myself.
Absolutely. Aditya Pratap, your initial remarks.
I would say that pet parents are crossing all limits. These pet owners, they keep dangerous dog breeds with them, with absolutely callous disregard for their fellow neighbors. You know, I call it a phenomenon of human nature, where people care more for their animals than for the well-being of people around them. And you know, it's a very this should be psychologically investigated. In fact, I would also say that such people are already liable under tort law. We have the doctrine of absolute liability, that if you get a dangerous animal on your premises and you take that dangerous animal on a leash throughout the common areas, you are liable, absolutely, because that animal has no business being there. Second, it is also important to note
Okay.
that
Okay, it's just an introductory remark, sir. We'll get back. I mean, you're making points, and I need point-by-point retorts as well for you. Also, let me just very clearly just mention here also, we are not generalizing either sides. There is no generalization on either sides, and that's very important to have a very respectful understanding of what we are discussing here. Sonali, important point being made by the advocate, and he's talking about certain breeds that have also been banned in some parts of India. Some rules that I've been able to go through is in Noida, in Ghaziabad, in Delhi, and you have certain breeds that have been banned, that have been prohibited. And that's also a reference that my panelist is making here. What would your responses to that be?
See, it's true. Not in Delhi yet. We are still expecting a policy decision from the government to come in maybe in another 2 months. But yes, Haryana for sure, and also in Uttar Pradesh parts, many of these breeds have been banned. And it is honestly a very correct policy decision. These dogs, by nature, like an American Pit Bull or a Rottweiler, are by nature known to be violent, aggressive dogs. So owning them comes with a lot of responsibility, especially when it comes to training them. So I think this ban is the right way.
In fact, Sonali, let me just understand, even from a mind, even though you're an animal activist, it's also important for me to understand what is your perspective when you see some parts of India banning some breeds, another part banning another breeds. Can't we have a consensus? Can't there be a common law that, listen, these breeds are not easy to be brought up. These breeds are not easy to be kept as pets. And therefore, there needs to be a common, say a common rule, a common law. I understand there's state and center and different states having different laws. But isn't there a common platform that can become on this?
Absolutely. There should technically be a countrywide ban if you were, because that it's just happening in piecemeal. It can happen in one go. We can recognize the list of dogs or dog breeds which need to be banned, and the ban can be enforced. Breeders should not be allowed to breed. People should not be allowed to buy. People should not be allowed to own. It's not very difficult. We have bodies like the AWBI, and so basis on the studies. And this is not just India; it's a global phenomenon at the moment with these bans and these breeds. So it's about recognizing and the government taking the initiative.
Okay, Aditya, with your experience, let me just come in here. You know, these two incidents that have happened, and it's also important, there are so many contexts and subtexts to what we are discussing right now. But in these two particular cases, these attacks happened while the pet owners were present. In the first case, what happened in Delhi, the door was opened, the dogs were not leashed, one after the other. I think more as a trigger. They seemed, at least after the first dog's attack, the second would have been triggered. You see how the mother and the child was hounded. Now, what you saw in Bengaluru, a 4-year-old was attacked at the owner's house. What are the laws about these things? Because these seem to be happening with the pet owners around.
Absolutely. See, that is the point. We have section 289 of the IPC, which says negligent conduct with respect to stray animal or other things or dangerous animal. Point is, the pet owner will say, he was in my house, he was under my watch. Where is my, I've exercised the due standard of care. So, and if we see the visuals here, we have leash dogs who are attacking. Dogs on a leash who are attacking. Tomorrow one can say, okay, one can tell these pet owners.
No, those were earlier instances. Those were earlier instances. It's not these two contexts.
Yeah. Yes. See, that is what we're essentially saying is
that attack on the leash was an earlier instance.
Yes. So we are faced with a legal regime where a special law is required to register. See, because we have the Wildlife Protection Act.
Aditya, let me just stop you here. You have mentioned that there is a section under IPC, and that is something that can be invoked in this case. But you are saying that the pet owners would say that they have taken due diligence in ensuring what needs to be done. But in these two cases, why is that law failing? I mean, here the due diligence doesn't seem to be there. The dogs were not leashed. I don't know what really happened at that in the second incident in Bengaluru. But isn't the existing laws enough? Are you saying they are not enough to really cater to a situation like this? Is that what you're saying?
Yes, not at all. Look at section 289 of IPC. Negligent conduct with respect to animal. Whoever knowingly or negligently omits to take such order with any animal in his possession as is sufficient to guard against any danger to human life and probable danger of grievous hurt shall be punished with imprisonment for either description for a term 6 months or 1,000 rupees fine. And it is a bailable by any, it's a cognizable but a bailable offense. So the point is, punishment is only 6 months. It's a bailable offense. Trial, we don't know how long it will go on. So, and the person will say the dog was on a leash. The dog made such a powerful force that that I had to let go of the leash, So it's the law, section 289, when it was passed in 1860, clearly did not contemplate the circumstances of today.
Okay.
So we do need a stricter law.
Sonali, do you want to come into this? Sonali, what do you have to say? Is it about the law lacking teeth?
I don't think the law currently, honestly, IPC was 1860, but now the Bharatiya Nyaya Sanhita is also coming up, and it has an identical section, 289, and now I think 292 or something. The problem is now the case, I think Neha was reporting from Bangalore. Now, if in such a situation there is no report to the police, how can we expect the legal action to, be taken? The father, in fact, has refused to take action. However, recently in a case, I think in Ghaziabad, an FIR has been lodged under 289-337. So the law is there in place. It just needs to be implemented.
All right. Aditya, okay, Sonali, let me just ask you a sequel question. As a pet owner and as an animal activist, what are the key things that pet owners need to be careful of? What are the rules? Do we have rules for that?
So unfortunately, there are no such rules that apply. I've seen societies coming up with their own set of rules, and I'm not very sure how much they are being respected or adhered to. But there is a common sense of, just common sense actually, that if you are with your dog in a public place, just to kind of keep him on a leash, keep him muzzled, know your own dog's temperament, use a different lift, use a different park. It's just about scheduling and making sure you're not interacting and reducing these incidents to the minimal, and also training your dog.
Aditya, is it as easy as that? One, of course, we are discussing about how these... Let me just finish, Aditya. Let me just finish. It is such a sensitive issue because on one hand, we are discussing about what's happening inside these houses, what happened in Delhi. There's also the other side of how pet owners just abandon dogs, and that creates another menace because pets are not used to living abandoned out in the streets. There's another form of familiarity and aggression that then develops because they can't even survive with the strays of that same locality. It's so complex. So as Sonali is saying, it's common sense and there are no laws. Is that really the problem, that there are no rules for pet owners to start with?
See, just as I said earlier, that the current existing legal penalties under Section 289 of the IPC are not sufficient. Number two, let us look at procedural law. I say the police, whether people choose to file a complaint or do not choose to file a complaint, whether they settle the matter among themselves, the police officers, the executive magistrate, etc., should invoke their powers under chapter proceedings of the CRPC. They have powers to remove public nuisances. They have powers to remove public dangers. Just as you pass externment orders against threat mongers to remove them from an area, why can't a violent pet be directed to be removed from the locality and go maybe put in a place somewhere else?
Oh.
So I strongly believe that such an, even
Aditya,
though the people might not file the
once
complaint, such an attack should be recorded by the police and chapter proceedings should be invoked.
Aditya, earlier, this is just to understand, earlier during your remarks, you had mentioned dangerous pets. Now, how do you define that? I mean, for example, just, thinking, I don't know, again, as I said, details of each case, I don't know, we don't know. But for example, you may be having a pet that's extremely friendly and whatever, you could term whatever you want to. But that pet could have just ran out of the door and attacked somebody who's a stranger. For whatever reasons, for whatever the trigger might be, whatever maybe the situations in that particular case. So that pet at that time becomes dangerous, but there doesn't seem to be any precedence to that. So how do you really define a dangerous pet till an attack happens?
See, the point is simple. As I said, states are coming out with laws to lay down what is a dangerous animal. Number two, if you look, what is a pet? A pet is an animal. If a human being were to commit these acts, he could take the defense of unsound mind. But an animal is not there. An animal is violent. An animal is dangerous. And remember, these are carnivorous. So people might say on one hand, okay, we need a greater study. But the point is simple. Doctrine of absolute liability is clear that even if it is 99% of the time the pet is friendly, 1% it goes astray, you will be held liable. Second, as I said, criminal liabilities need to be enhanced. Number three is that like the government can probably, because see, law and order is both state subject and central subject. Both the center and the state have the right to have the duty to protect people's life and health. Therefore, it is either the center or the state which can come up with legislation defining what is a dangerous pet dog. For example, look at German shepherds. Lots of attacks take place by German shepherds. You know what is the full form? A German shepherd is called Alsatian wolf dog. It is a dog which is produced as a crossbreed between a normal dog and a wolf. Can such dogs be put as pets? Absolutely no. These dogs can be used by the armed forces. They can be used by the police as sniffer dogs, attack dogs, etc. But clearly, such dogs, restrictions on their placing in housing societies have to be brought in.
No, that's very important. Certainly, Sonali, valid points being made here by Aditya, and I'm sure for much of it you would not disagree. And one point being the absolute liability that needs to be fixed. If you are owning a pet dog or whatsoever, really the onus lies on the, you may call the owner or you may call a pet parent, but the liability has to be fixed there.
Absolutely, no disagreement with that. I hold myself responsible for every action of my pet dogs. So why not the case for everyone, irrespective of breed, dangerous breed, friendly breed, anything? I am responsible for any act of my pet dog in a public common area within my house. I can keep my dog the way I want. But when I take that dog out on a walk, I take him out or her out to any public place, I am responsible. You can't hold the animal responsible. And my responsibility starts with not just leashing, But training, knowing my dog's temperament, ensuring these incidents don't happen, and then taking responsibility in case they do.
In fact, Sonali, and I'll just get back to you, Aditya, as well. This also brings about another complex issue. Now, an incident like this happens. If at all there is an attack for whatever reasons by a pet, dog or any other pet, the next challenge really is to be able to live in that locality itself. And quite understandable because emotions are so high, concerns over safety so high. Once an attack has happened, how would you ensure that a second time would not happen? And you know, there are so many layers to this. The onus then is even more on the pet owners to ensure that something like this would not happen in the first place. But what are the rules for cases like this?
Well, as we say, prevention is better than cure. And I do believe prevention is better than cure. And the law cannot wait for people to get killed or hurt and then take action. I mean, understand, which is why we have the criminal jurisprudence, the criminal law, which confers preventive powers on the police. So yes, you know, and plus, you know, we have section 39 of this of the the CRPC also, or the IPC, which puts an obligation.
Which is, what is it? Sorry, what is it?
People to report dangerous animals, and the police, after receiving
no, I think we had Aditya, we had a signal issue. Can you repeat and explain that IPC again, that section that you are mentioning?
Yes, absolutely. We have section 39 of the Code of Criminal Procedure, which says that the public is duty bound to give information of certain offenses. You know, it's your duty. You cannot just watch an offense take place and, you know, and stay quiet about it. So I do believe that offenses pertaining to dangerous animals, uncontrolled animals, should be put within that section. And anything which is a danger to public affairs and society should be compulsorily reported to the cops. And the cops should have the ability to invoke their preventive powers by immediately saying that, "Dear Mr. So-and-so, they issue a show cause notice. We have received a report that your pet is being dangerous. He has made, and these are the CCTV footages. Police can call for the CCTV footage by way of a preliminary inquiry and immediately pass orders to remove that pet."
Okay, all right. Okay, last remark from Sonali Chopra as well, please. Sonali, your closing remarks.
Now I'll talk like an animal rights activist. See, we also have to see it from the point of view of a pet owner. At the end of the day, a pet to be well trained needs a place to go and train, needs a place to go and exercise. Now that's when, you know, dog parks, where, you know, a dog owner can take his dog freely without having to interact with other people. Now these are certain infrastructural issues that we are facing. I want to walk my dog, I have to walk him or her either on the road or in the same park. So it has to be a both-sided effort. It can't be that, and he says, pick the dog up and put him somewhere. Where does that dog go? Do we have that kind of infrastructure? We have issues even putting ill strays. So, you know, that it has to be a two-way street. We have to find
Sonali, unfortunately, as important as these points that you're making, and it's very valid points that you're making, I mean, the dog also needs to go and poop. The dog needs to be taken somewhere. The dog needs to go out for a walk, or whichever animal we are talking about. But the fact that we don't have such facilities, and I don't see them come up in near future, at least in much part of India, considering the space constraints or whatever, you may call it just the lack of priorities or whatsoever. Isn't then the onus far more on pet owners or those who really want to become pet owners to ensure that they can fulfill these needs in a safe place before they actually take the decision of owning pets?
Absolutely. Nowadays, people, you're putting up dogs for adoption, or even, you know, when you go, it's something that you need to consider, whether you live in a flat or do you have a bungalow, do you have a garden? You know, you figure out, you need to put all these, you can't just walk in and just go out one day and pick up a dog and get him home. So these things also need to be considered for any new pet parent.
All right, Sonali and Aditya, thank you very much for joining us on this very sensitive and emotive issue, but definitely something that all of us need to be paying very, very careful attention to. Thank you very much for a very, a very nice discourse. Thank you.
Definitely.
Thank you,
Welcome.
Sneha. Thank you.